everybody, it's Carla. I am here again in my kitchen for another episode of That Sounds So Good, which is my book and is also me making recipes from my book. Which came first, the book or me and the chicken and the egg? I don't know, but today I do know we do have chicken. Today I'm going to be showing you sheet pan chicken with roasted tomatoes and chickpeas. A recipe that's near and dear to my heart because I developed it very early on working on the book. It wasn't on the recipe list and I never intended to make this recipe. And the reason is, for most of my life, not into sheet pan chicken. Sheet pan chicken is one of those things that sounds great and is terrible. Sheet pan chicken is a lie that recipe developers tell you, that you think you can throw everything on a pan and put it in the oven and it's gonna come out awesome. It's really not. What's gonna happen is things are gonna be moist and steamy and then cooked, period. So if you have moist and steamy over here and you have crispy and caramelized over there, I wanna be over here. I don't wanna be in moist and steamy. So my recipe solves for moist and steamy and it takes you to crisp and browned and caramelized. And it's a real journey. You have to watch the video to find out how to do it. Sorry, I'm not giving it away at the beginning. So the first step is to get some spices and seasonings on the chicken. I like to do that as early as possible in the recipe process to give it as much time to season the chicken as possible. And while I am doing that, you are gonna like and subscribe because we gotta keep chicken flowing. I'm gonna use a 2-to-1 ratio of hot paprika to oregano. So just mixing those together. And for 8 chicken leg quarters, this weighs about 6 pounds. And my rule of thumb on salt is about a teaspoon of kosher for every pound of protein. We've got 6 pounds, which is equivalent to 6 teaspoons, which is the same as 2 tablespoons. Always doing math over here. The first time I made this recipe, I was winging it, which is ironic because it's chicken legs. I really had no plan, but I had people coming over. But at like 3:30 in the afternoon that day, I did not know what I was making. I just knew that people were coming at 7:30. And when I got home, I was like, ooh, I wish that I could have actually thought about this yesterday or thought about this in advance and seasoned the chicken. But instead of beating myself up about it and crying a river, I was like, well, you have this time now, Carla, so do it. And this is a rule that I come back to a lot in the book, which is that you just always want to start your process with the thing that takes the longest or that you want to give the most time to. In this case, it's like giving the most time to this dry spice to flavor up the protein. Any spices that fall down to the bottom of this vessel, I'm just gonna kind of do the chicken dance and pick up those spices. Use all of it. I know it looks like a lot, but it makes it a lot delicious. All right, so the chicken is seasoned. I am also seasoned. And at this point, I'm going to set the chicken aside, wash my hands. So after I got my chicken spiced up that wintry day, pre-pandemic, I was like, what else do I have? And what I had was tomatoes and I had canned chickpeas. I didn't want to make a sauce. I wanted tomatoes and chickpeas, but I didn't want to have to get out another thing because I was already in kind of dire straits and I wanted this to be simple. I did, however, want to get off some of this tomato juice because I wasn't looking for a saucy situation. And already in the back of my mind, I think I was aware that I wanted browning and crisping, and tomato liquid is not that. All right, so I've got my tomatoes and I didn't want to serve this to anybody. So I decided to, just tear these into pieces. You could definitely do this with shears, but why? Why bother, you know? If I were to throw the chicken on top right now, all of this moisture that's in the tomatoes would just become like a tomato steam undercarriage situation for my chicken. The chicken might stay moist and tomatoey, but the tomatoes would also stay wet and soupy. So you would get a chicken juicy, loose tomato party, which is not the party I want to go to. And it's not the party I want to throw. Okay, tomatoes are torn. Obviously, as they were torn, they spurted things. So I'll just, less liquid, more caramelizing, less time in oven to get to that point. So it's okay for it to be, you know, saucy, just not sauna. So there's my tomatoes, and this is 2 cans of rinsed and drained chickpeas and a few sprigs of thyme. If you didn't have thyme, you could use oregano, you could use rosemary, you could use a little bit of sage, and these are fresh bay leaves, and just tucking them around. And then for a little more heat, I've got chili de árbol, and I don't break them open completely, but I'm just squeezing them a little to get the skin to kind of open up some of that flavor. The tomatoes really have virtually no salt, and chickpeas love salt, so being generous. All right, so the other thing that this needs to be delicious is fat. I've got extra virgin olive oil. It's gonna show up twice. There's gonna be more, but I'm starting with 3/4 of a cup. So the oil conducts heat, it encourages browning. It's also an incredible amount of flavor, and it's going to especially draw out the flavor from the thyme and the bay leaf. So I have an amazing foundation, which is gonna become somewhere between a vegetable accompaniment and a delicious jammy sauce. This mixture needs time. It needs a head start, and giving it a full hour to throw off this moisture, to take on some color, for the tomatoes to shrivel and start to see some of this liquid evaporate and the fat concentrate. So lots is happening while it's in the oven. Jump into it. You have an hour. Go make a playlist. It's been about an hour. Tomato Jamtown, USA is approaching a dried off and crispy place. I've got red onion that is cut into 1/4-inch pieces, roughly. And I need 12 cloves of garlic, which I see Chris Morocco doing this all the time. How does he do it? It's not, there it goes. They don't need to be peeled. Actually, roasting them in their jackets is going to protect them. And the reason the onion and the garlic go in phase 2 is because I didn't want the garlic to burn. I just wanted it to get really like that texture of roasted garlic when you can just squeeze it out of the cloves. And same with the onion. So good texture, tender, but still sweet. Yum. As the kids say, this is looking like a snack, but like literally. It smells insane. It looks fantastic. What happened to all the oil? I'll tell you. It sucked into these chickpeas and made them crispy and flavorful, and it glossed up my tomatoes, and they're really dark, and like some of them are like sun-dried tomato. This one could potentially get too dark later, so I'm just gonna eat it now. Mmm, delicious. I'm putting down the onion and the garlic and helping them make friends with everybody. It's occurring to me now that another benefit of putting these harder vegetables down later in the game is this is going to hold the chicken up a bit. So it's got a little room to release its juices and its fat to the down below, because now everybody is going in for a twice roasted phase. And that's the thing about the sheet pan dinner. You can't just do it in one phase. You have to break it into phases. So it's still one pan, it's still minimal cleanup, it's still very contained, but it's not all at once. One pan, 2 phases, many personalities. All right, so chickens going right on top. So remember, the chickens, not only do they have these fantastic seasonings that are now going to just be unleashed upon the party below, but this chicken also has its own really great amount of fat, which is why I chose the dark meat in the first place. So that fat's gonna render and mix with the other fat. The seasonings are gonna render and mingle with the other seasonings, and it's gonna become very unified and very beautiful. But wait, there's more. So this is my last half cup of extra virgin olive oil. Even though there's a lot of fat, we're gonna help the fat get going by adding fat to it. So the vegetables in the bottom are practically confying. The chicken on the top is slow roasting so that it gets very shreddy and tender, but also has time for the skin to crisp. Anyway, I'm not apologizing for fat anymore. It's just not a thing I do. Love the stuff. Oven is still at the same temperature. These guys are going back in. There's no tossing and turning. There's no futzing and fooling around, but they need an hour and a half. We have arrived at chicken culmination chapter, where the chicken has assumed its highest perch and its biggest goals, I think. I mean, it's gorgeous. I have browning, I have crisping, I have jammy town, I have succulence. And so now, like, a juicy, saucy situation happened where the chicken juices came together with our tomato and chickpea party that had already gotten started. It's like the late party, the after party. The chicken was the after party. The garlic cloves are just falling right out of their skins. So as you serve, make sure that everybody gets a little bit of garlic to kind of mash into their bites. I want to keep all of the veg and the herbs and the onions and the tomatoes, but I'm going to end up straining the sauce as I go. So I'm just using a slotted spoon to spoon these gorgeous vegetables with the chicken. It smells like if a tomato took a horseback ride into the tropical sunset. That is what it smells like. I love the smell of horses. It smells really good. There's still a good amount of juices mixed with oil. Just straining this off. All right, so what I've got in this measuring cup now is a combination of the tomato juices, the chicken juices, the onion juices that have made a pan sauce in the bottom. And what's happening on top is that the oil is separating. So that's a combination of chicken fat and olive oil that came together in the whole cooking process as well. Everything in this cup is delicious and savable. I just don't want to pour that much oil onto the platter because it would just maybe feel a little bit greasy. I'm just gonna pour this off until I start to see the chicken juices. And now this saucy sauce. If it looks like a lot, or it looks like it's getting buried in the bottom of the platter and like people might not be able to get it, then I'll just put this into something to pass at the table. I think it's time to throw a party. I'd like to call my guest to the table now. Guest, would you like to come to the table?
I would. Hello.
Cosmo
Hello.
Music, everyone. Hello.
She's my mom.
Aw. You
Okay.
remember this dish, yeah?
Yes.
You've had it before? Do you want some polenta?
Sure.
If you want the recipe for the baked polenta, click on the little thing over there. And leg and a thigh, that's what we're having.
Yeah,
Do you like the looks of this guy?
I do.
Great. Okay.
All right.
Watercress salad, little Dijon vinaigrette. You could do this with any simple salad. Your favorite vinaigrette will be great. It's just something like super bright, a little bit spicy, you know, acidic.
Yep.
Oh, that reminds me.
Mine, her.
Last little step.
Ah. Yeah, aged cherry vinegar.
Aged sherry vinegar.
I can already taste it.
What can you taste in your mind?
Channeling my inner
Yeah.
taste buds.
Yeah, as opposed to the out.
As opposed to the outer one. Smoked chicken,
Yes, smoky, for sure.
creamy polenta, and then chickpeas. Cheers.
Cheers. Definitely tastes the smoky paprika. And it got down into everything else. Like
And
it's
then
fully
the
on my
polenta
chickpea.
is very good.
The polenta is very good. Good stuff. Well,
Good beans.
the thing is, Cosmo,
Yeah.
pandemics come,
Pandemics go.
but sheet pan chicken,
Will forever stay in our hearts.
that is right.